Hello and welcome to the Serpent's Lair, a lecture type of podcast. First of all, let me thank you all for coming here today. There's a lot of podcasts there and I am grateful that you have followed mine. Let me start by saying just a few words about my own background. My name is Sami. I'm a psychoanalytic psychotherapist, an explorer of the witch in cinema, history, folklore, from the psychoanalytic point of view. What I like to present you today is first part of this topic. Next time I will continue the same, but the focus is in our time. For example, in the case of Annelies Michel. By the end of this talk today, you will be familiar with the religious background of exorcism, great movies related to my topic, historical witchcraft cases with possession, especially from Scotland, but also America and Finland. As usual, I will combine some psychoanalytical research and theory into this. This presentation is structured as follows. First case study, talk about the roots of exorcism, great movies, more cases, some research material and theory, more movies and case studies. If you have any questions, perhaps you would like to find my other social media where I am more available, you can find it under the name Soul Sanitarium in Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr and Mastodon. Remember to use Linktree in my social media. I don't want your money, just share my posts and talks with your friends. That keeps me going. How many of you have seen the movie The Exorcist? Probably almost all of you. How many of you know that there is some real case behind it? Many of you, I think. Did you know that it was a boy? Have you heard about cases where a child's head was spinning? He or she flew across the room. Do you know that there are conferences for modern day exorcists? Did you know that spider walk was seen in the movie already in the 60s and that this movie Demonia was based on research in southern Italy? Well, I will tell you about these things. Serpent's Lair. First of all, I like to give you an overview of one witch trial case that happened near Glasgow, Scotland, in the city called Paisley. Paisley town is located 11 kilometers west of Glasgow. Glasgow is the biggest city in Scotland. Paisley is known from its textile industry. More specific, it is known for its shawls. Shawl is a big scarf made from wool, and there are plenty of sheep in Scotland. This too has an interesting link to our story. Paisley witches, also known the Bargaran witches or Renfrewshire witches, case happened in the year 1697. According to Brian Levack 2008, in this case the 11-year-old girl Christian Shaw began in 1696 to experience fits and various bodily contortions. And sensory disturbances. At the times, her head twisted around as if her neckline had been dissolved. Her stomach swelled, and at the times she had difficulty breathing and felt as if she was being choked. Witnesses claimed that she was even carried through the house in the air. Christian was accusing their maid, Catherine Campbell, an old widow, Agnes Nasmith, of witchcraft. Later she even added others to the list. This affair was referred to the Privy Council, which commissioned Lord Blantyre and 8 other members to interrogate and imprison persons accused of witchcraft and to examine witnesses. All this led to the confessions of Elizabeth Anderson, who was 17, and James and Thomas Lindsay. James was 14 and Thomas just a minor. Finally, 24 persons were accused of witchcraft and 7 of them went to trial.
Order in the court.
4 women and 2 men were strangled or hanged in the Gallows Green, and then their bodies were burned at the site. Their remains were buried at Maxwellton Cross at a site marked by a horseshoe and circle of cobbled stones. One of the male suspects killed himself by hanging in the prison. It was said that he was strangled by the devil. This was from Nelson, 1809. Paisley Development Trust has unveiled a memorial made by a local craftsman. It is in the middle of the road, and the horseshoe is still on the middle of it. But what happened to the girl then? Christian's symptoms disappeared and she became well. Later, Christian and her mother traveled to the Netherlands, and they smuggled under their skirts a pieces of the spinning jenny from there. They started their small textile business in Paisley, which later became Bargaran Mills, which was then bought out by the Coates family. So the Paisley's industrial heritage was founded by those women. This was from BBC News, Williams, 2012. There are many cases like this in many countries that has been recorded quite well because they led to the witch trials. The key element in these cases is the demonic possession, quite often a child. Next, about the history of exorcism. Many of you know the movie The Exorcist or the book series or all parts of it. Well, perhaps you can quickly spot some familiar words from this, what I'm going to say next. Christians do believe that there once was a man called Jesus and that he was a son of God. During his short visit on earth, Jesus revealed to his disciples many great signs and wonders. One of the signs that he repeatedly performed wherever he went was the casting out of demons. There are 4 Gospels in the Bible that are related to this. I will focus on Mark the 5th. There is a scene where Jesus commands demons out from the man that they have possessed by saying, "I cast you out, you unclean spirit." I will read an excerpt. "And Jesus asked him, 'What is your name?' He replied, 'My name is Legion, for we are many.' And he begged him eagerly not to send them out of the country. Now a great herd of swine was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him, 'Send us to the swine, let us enter them.' So he gave them leave, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the swine, and the herd, numbering about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the sea and were drowned in the sea." These same themes are repeated in the Roman ritual, exorcisms, and certain supplications. In the 2013 translation, there's no form, "I cast you out." It has been translated, "Go out from him or her unclean spirit." An exorcist speaks with the authority of God to cast out demons. Whether or not this is invisible drama really takes place behind the outward words and actions of exorcist and demoniac. The Catholic exorcists' pretensions to authority are grounded not in personal self-assurance but in legal fact. In contemporary Catholicism, exorcists claim to confront the devil not only with the authority of God, but also with that of the Church, which they themselves have received by an explicit license. This was from Young, 2016.
I command you, by the judge of the living and the dead, to depart from the servant of God.
However, the intense, confrontational, and dramatic exorcisms that captured popular imagination in films such as The Exorcist, placing great emphasis on the power of words uttered by a priest, are distinctly modern phenomenon. Jesus of Nazareth has been called a magician by Jews and non-Jewish. He exorcised demons, healed the sick, and raised Lazarus from the dead, and predicted future events, just like a miracle worker. But his motivations were different kind. Compassion, not merely to impress or gain money, and the power came from God. Exorcism was a defining feature of early Christianity, but already in the ancient Mesopotamia, serious diseases were diagnosed as the effects of either various demons, a ghost, witchcraft, or an angry god. For the success of the cure, it was important to know the exact nature of the illness. The purpose of various rituals employed by the exorcist was both to purify the patient thus freeing him from the impurity and sin he might committed, and to restore the relations between him and the gods. Moreover, the demon or ghost had to be expelled or the sorcery undone. One way was to offer a substitute for the patient, usually a goat or a pig. This was from Thomson, 2001.
모성을 구하시며 빛을 발하는 대천사들과 모든 당신의 성인들의 이름으로 간구하나이다. 아멘. 거짓말의 아버지이자 태초의 살인자여.
Those of you who have seen the Korean movie Priests 2015 have seen in the screen the exorcism setting where the piglet was present. South Korean film was written and directed by Young Jae-hyun based on his award-winning short film 12th Assistant Deacon. This short one can be found from YouTube. For me, this was almost the only interesting thing in the movie, but there is also one scene where you can spot Korean shamans. This could be a much more interesting topic to film. I have previously made an episode about witch trials on the easternmost border of Sweden, Finland, from Käkisalmi Castle. You can listen this in Witches in Finland series, but here I like to mention that in Finland there have been a case where a priest was doing exorcism and transferred the sickness into animals. This is also a witch trial case. According to Matikainen, 1995, in the 17th century, a rare witch trial case took place in Käkisalmi local court. The original documents were later destroyed in a huge burn of city of Turku, but luckily in 1790s one newspaper had published material from it. A Greek Catholic priest, Jaakima Terentiev, was sued because the son of high-ranking official had become blind at his school, where reading and the Bible were taught. A woman told the boy's father rumors about the priest that he used evil ways for healing. A suspicion arose that the priest had transferred the disease to the son from the woman he healed. The priest himself said the boy's blindness was caused by measles, which was very possible in those times. The priest had promised to heal the boy's measles, but had always postponed his promise. Suddenly he disappeared and then was found in the same bed with the maid. Next, the priest promised to cure the boy as soon as he received food and drink. Later, the boy's mother gave the priest a reward, but still nothing happened. Elsewhere, the priest had hinted at forbidden means of healing, and he had been asked to transfer the disease to animals. The priest replied that I do what I can, God what he wants. After the priest left, one horse died, and the bear killed 2 cows from the house. The priest had also banished spirits from another house and transferred sicknesses to a sheep. It was also suspected that the beer served by the priest had made the men go crazy and attack each other. The court's sentence was harsh. He was sentenced to death. A high-ranking official, although, saved him from this sentence, and he was allowed to keep even his post. Next, I will focus on the difference between Catholics and Protestants in Europe, and I will present you history from Germany, where huge public exorcisms took place in the 16th century. This is the story about the Fuggers family, that is with 2 letters G in the middle. This story is largely based on the research of Lyndall Roper, and you can find it from her book Oedipus and the Devil, 1994. I try to keep it quite short here. In the end of 16th century, so-called Counter-Reformation priests carried out first private, then public exorcisms in Augsburg, Germany. One famous Jesuit was Peter Canisius, who was invited to preach in the city by the local bishop. In the first year alone, he is said to have converted 600 people. One of them came from the famous Fugger family, Ursula Fugger. Sorry about that. They belonged into the city elite. It was a wealthy merchant family. Canisius did not shy away from involvement in daily interactions of the Fugger family. His spiritual relationship to Ursula gave him access to family life. As her spiritual director, Canisius had to remain in control. Woman's role was to listen and learn, behave modestly, and adhere to his direction. She was also donating her jewelry and money to the church. This was from the Lacqua O'Donnell and Roper. From 1568 onwards, there was a strong increase in cases of possession in the city of Augsburg, initially only performed with the walls of private houses. Later, large crowds would gather to witness exorcism in public places. Especially Canisius performed many of these ritualistic spectacles. There were several exorcisms in the Fugger family household, most of them servants. According to Lyndall Roper, 1994, there was an exorcism mania in Augsburg between 1560s and 80s. They served perhaps also confessional purposes as a propaganda tool in religiously divided territories. Protestants greatly weakened the link between the physical and the divine. This changed the theological understanding of the body in many ways. They were separating virginity from holiness. We should remember that for the Catholics the Virgin Mary is the ultimate role model, and the clerical marriage was not allowed. Protestants also denied that divine forces could be captured in the physical. The holy could not be manifest in parts of the human body. Protestants believed more that works of evil were illusions for man. In demonological books, there was a debate that witches could not fly. These were devil's illusions. But more serious matter was the pact with the devil was also abandoning the God. Martin Luther believed in the devil's work, and so this is not a surprise. Earlier, until 1886, Lutheran exorcism was part of joining the church, especially in the baptism, and it is still used in some parts of Finland, according to Renkola 2017. I should add that also the Catholic exorcism is in active use in Finland.
What went we out into this wilderness to find? Leaving our country, kindred, our fathers' houses. For what? For the kingdom of God. Let us pray.
At this point, I would like to mention a few films about demonic possession and witchcraft. In the next episode, there will be more, because most of the great films have been following the real-life cases from our time. It is actually sad that there are no more historical films about demonic possession. Okay, there is the Exorcist series and a scene in The Passion of Christ 2004. Loudon possession of the nuns have been filmed a few times. Perhaps it wouldn't come to mind at first, but one of these films that have been made is The Crucible.
Give me a soft word.
Abby, I may think of you softly from time to time, but I will cut off my hand before I reach for you again. Be never touched.
Hi. But we did.
What some hearts desire, they must possess.
I know you, John Proctor. You love me. Whatever sin it is, you love me yet.
What they cannot possess, they must destroy.
I have a warrant for your wife. For what crime? And what proof? Who charged her? Well, Abigail Williams charged her.
Abigail wants me dead, John. You know it.
This girl is false!
Based on Arthur Miller's play, and the other is The Witch 2015. Both of them deserve their own episode in my podcast series later. The Crucible is of course about Salem witch trials, and also this story has been filmed a few times. The link to the film The Witch is also there, and this is my final story, a story of Elizabeth Knapp.
You've cursed this family.
Robert Eggers, the director of The Witch, has stated the Elizabeth Knapp case was one of the big influences for sure. One of my favorite films. Finally, the published accounts of the demonic possessions of Elizabeth Knapp in 1672 and of the Goodwin children in 1688, which were widely distributed through the New England in the 1680s, helped to shape the performances of the afflicted girls in Salem in 1692 and 93, according to Levack 2013. On Monday, the last day of October 1671, Elizabeth Knapp, 16-year-old girl, started to show repeated and violent fits, to quieter periods of intermission and back again. In the evening, sitting before the fire, she suddenly cried out, "Oh, my legs!" and clapped her hand on them. Immediately she cried, "Oh, my breast!" and removed her hands thither. And forthwith, "Oh, I'm strangled!" and put her hands on her throat. About 1 month later, in early December, Elizabeth complained of terrible new assaults, which took the form of scratching her breasts, beating her sides, strangling her throat, and she did oftentimes seem to apprehension as she would forthwith be strangled. Elizabeth, in her fits, had become a kind of corporeal bomb, observed in the process of exploding. Indeed, the self-destructive impulse had been present almost from the beginning. 2 nights after her first severe seizures, she was suddenly thrown down to the midst of the floor with violence. As the weeks passed, her fits were elaborated and extended in various ways. During one stretch, she barked like a dog and pleaded like a calf, in which her vocal organs were visibly made use of. It was during the active phase that Elizabeth managed to talk most fully and coherently about her personal transactions with the devil. If you are thinking who have recorded these happenings, it is the Samuel Willard, a prominent preacher in the Puritan Massachusetts Bay Colony. Knapp, who was 16 at the time, was the daughter of a farmer and the servant in the house of Willard. After the new year, her condition appeared to stabilize. Still, there was no sign of fundamental improvement and no clear prospect of recovery. Thus, she continues to this instant, followed with fits, wrote Willard on January 15th. Unhappily for us, students of history of witchcraft, the pastor broke off his running narrative just here. How and when and where the case was finally resolved, these things we will never know. This was from Demos, 1982. There were plenty of cases of possession during the witch persecutions in France, Sweden, Finland, Russia, and in Germany. In the demonology, it was pondered that when the devil possessed a person, he did not have to compress or make air thicker to create an aerial body. He simply occupied the body of the afflicted person, using his power over a matter to direct the functions of the human body. In Scandinavia, it was believed that devil was more like a concrete person, not spirit, like for example in England. One of the most important powers that the devil had was the power to create illusions. According to Clark, 2011, in the times of witch trials, the possession was a regular feature of social life, as it was the perceived, and the concept seems to have fitted without offense into the patterns of true of both ordinary people and the learned. It is too easy to superimpose the categories of modern psychiatry onto the early modern diagnosis of insanity to produce what may be called a psychopathology possession. Freud himself offered a brief specimen in his texts about Bavarian painter Christoph Heinzmann, but there are even worse attempts to interpret all cases in terms of modern psychiatry. I would like to add into this that when different theories from the different scientific fields are brought into the same discussion, the result is better. For the end, I would like to read very short Exorcism, that is for the baptism in Lutheran Church, or has been, remained until the end of 19th century. Get out of here, you filthy devil, and give that Holy Spirit a place, through the power of Him who will come to judge the living and the dead. Amen. This was from the Protestant Bible of Michael Agricola, 1548. I will end here this part 1. Serpent's Lair. Thank you for listening and happy holidays. Welcome to a new episode of Serpent's Lair.